Hi, good evening. Welcome to another installation of Danbury Dems. My name is Andrea Gartner. I'm the chair of the Danbury Democratic Town Committee and chair of the Danbury Democratic Party, and I'm your host for this evening. Tonight we'll be talking mostly about City of Danbury zoning issues, and I have two candidates for zoning here with me this evening. One is an incumbent, and one was a long-serving zoning commissioner member who's seeking election again this November. So first, I'd like to introduce Candace Fay.
Hi.
Good evening, Candace.
Good evening.
You're not a stranger to zoning. Previously, you served as a zoning alternate, and you were recently seated in a vacancy for the Zoning Commission.
That's correct.
Also with me tonight is Ted Haddad Jr.
Hello.
Hi, good evening. So Ted was a long-serving member of the Zoning Commission, and just very recently, at the end of last year, you resigned from the commission to be able to speak publicly on a particular project, and we're very glad that you're seeking your candidacy for the Zoning Commission in upcoming municipal elections.
Thank you.
Because you've served very long on that.
Thank you. I'm looking forward to it.
Great. So I think we can start out by just maybe asking each of you what moves you to serve your community, and specifically, what is it about zoning that interests you? And we can start with Candace.
Sure. Thank you. So I'm a lifelong resident of Danbury. I grew up in Danbury. I live across the street from the family home that I grew up in. My mom still lives across the street, and my stepdad. I went to all Danbury public schools. I am very grateful for the experience that I've had in our city, and I really want to attract new families that can contribute to our community, and I want to retain families that are seeking relocation based on a variety of circumstances. And I really think that serving on the Zoning Commission can help our city achieve some of those goals that I hold strong, and I know that you do as well, for our community.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when we discussed your interest in filling the seat that had become vacant, that in serving as an alternate, often you would attend meetings, be part of the discussion, but when it really came down, you couldn't necessarily vote and cast your vote for that. So for that reason.
Yes, that was frustrating, because obviously sitting through those hearings, you begin to form opinions, and sometimes your opinions are different than those who actually have a vote at the final call of the vote. And so it was frustrating, but I'm very happy to be there now and use my one vote in a very meaningful way.
That's great. And then Ted, you've served on other commissions. So for people who might be watching who don't understand the nature of commission work, the commissions each have a number of members. There is a minority rule representation, so certain commissions can't have preponderance of one party over the other.
That's correct.
And there's also a minority rule for alternates. When commissions meet and not every full member is present, then alternates are seated for those commission members.
That's correct. Candace and I served together. I had the pleasure of being on the commission when she was on the commission, and I was very happy to see her get back on, to see that she had an interest in that, because I always referred to her as a very smart contributor. And there's a difference between somebody that just sits on the commission that has maybe one interest only, and just serves their interest, and then there's somebody that wants to just look at everything that's going on in Danbury and give some input. And Candace always asked the right questions, always asked the good questions, and was always involved in everything, even though she maybe didn't vote at times because she was an alternate. It's Danbury's lucky to have her on the commission now, and glad to see that she's running again.
Thank you.
Well, and I can say that, full disclosure, I currently serve on the Zoning Commission.
Yes.
And I had the experience of really getting a first-hand, front row seat during a pushback trying to co-locate off-track betting in a restaurant in downtown Danbury. And I can understand your frustration, because you were very much part of those hearings, which lasted past midnight on two occasions. These hearings extended over 3 hours. And to not be part of the final vote.
Yeah, I mean,
also.
you hope, and I do hope, that The comments of an alternate, I would certainly always consider them, and I hope that my comments were considered when those who had a vote, cast their vote. That perhaps maybe I could persuade them or just get them to think about a different, a different proposition or a different consideration that maybe they hadn't earlier.
Well, even being able to question the petitioner.
Yes.
You were always able to question the petitioner. You saw something on the application or the petition, or you had a question on something, or in their presentation that you would maybe pique somebody else's interest on the commission. Yeah, the alternate, even though they didn't always cast the vote, they still played a critical role in the discussion and the formation of final vote tallies. So
yeah,
it's
I
always
always
good
find
to
it
have.
so interesting that people have their different point of views, where they come from, and it is worthwhile considering them. So Ted, I want to talk about too that your extensive history of serving the city of Danbury on various commissions. Can you take us through the different commissions that you served on?
Well, yes. I'll start with I resigned in November of last year, and then I'll work back.
That's a good idea.
Okay. I first got involved in 1977, and I was appointed by Mayor Don Boughton at the time to serve on the Equal Rights and Opportunities Commission, the Fair Housing Commission, Fair Rent and Housing Commission.
So the first Mayor Boughton.
First Mayor Boughton,
Yes,
Donald Boughton, and also on the Flood and Erosion Control Board, which I think is the Environmental Impact Commission now. It was only, I think, a couple years before that, maybe 73, 74, 75, where the Common Council decided on zoning issues, and then I think they formed the Zoning Commission. So the Zoning Commission was from 77 to 79. When I was on the other commissions, I wasn't on that, and then I think in 1979, I got on the Zoning Commission. And I also was on the Democratic Town Committee and the Zoning Board of Appeals, which is different than the Zoning Commission. Everybody asks, you get the Zoning Commission, Zoning Department, Zoning Board of Appeals.
Yeah, very different.
Yeah. And I was, I think, 18 years or so, I was chairman of the Zoning Commission. And then 18 years ago, when this now Mark Boughton became mayor, the Republicans took control of the Zoning Commission, which gets back to what you were talking about before. The majority party gets 6 out of the 9. The minority party gets the 3 seats, so it doesn't get awfully lopsided. I guess 6-3 they don't call lopsided, but whatever. So yeah, so I've seen a lot of zoning in Danbury, a lot of growth in Danbury. I think maybe I was on when there was 35,000 people in Danbury, and now there's 85,000 people in Danbury, and a lot of things have changed. But yeah, in November I resigned because there was a petition that I had a conflict of interest on and was not able to speak, which we always excuse ourselves when we have conflicts of interest. It's the right thing to do. And members of other commissions and boards are free to speak anytime they want at any public hearing, but anybody on a land use commission cannot speak publicly at any commission, not just the zoning commission. So in order for me to speak or to contribute on it, I had to be a citizen, and I had to resign, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do. It broke my heart to write that letter of resignation, but I resigned. I spoke publicly at that hearing, and then it felt weird. I was an elected official and an appointed official for I think the longest length of time in Danbury, 41 years, and it was more than half my life. And I didn't know what to do when I wasn't. And so I said, you know what, it was nice for a week or two, but that's about it. I said, wait a second. But which brings me back to why am I doing this again? Or maybe you're gonna ask that next. And that's because I enjoyed being able to contribute and shape and tell my nieces and nephews when they were little things and now they're big things that I had something to say about that, or maybe something doesn't exist that I had something to say about, because it's not about me, it's about 85,000 people in Danbury, and Candace knows this well. The decisions we make and the questions we ask are for everybody, and you vote as to what's best for the city of Danbury. And then Danbury becomes so critical to the area that our decisions now could influence Ridgefield, Bethel, Brookfield, New Fairfield, you gotta think. You gotta think down the line. And that's what we try to do. And look, people love you for what you say. People want to throw rocks at your head. That's just what happens. That's just what happens.
I think that comes with the perils of serving in a public office.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there's always you're gonna hear it from people.
Yeah.
Candace, do you find your profession, you're an attorney in town with your own practice, does that help inform? Like, is that why maybe zoning has an appeal for you? That there is sort of this
Yes.
black and white way potentially to approach things.
So I would say, generally speaking, being a lawyer is not always a good thing, but in this capacity in serving on zoning, you review legal correspondence, and I have to know the Robert Rules of Order. It has definitely helped me to be familiar with some of the language and verbiage that is used in the petitions or in accompanying memoranda. I know other members on the Zoning Commission have told me to forget about being a lawyer, but it's one of those things that you can't forget. Right. Honestly, through law school, it wasn't something I was interested in. I think I didn't recognize the importance, and I think that's often it's an undervalued commission. And then once I got involved in some, just local issues and realized, wow, this really is a way to craft and mold our community. Mm-hmm. Once I appreciated it, I wanted to be more involved. And so I'm thankful to have the opportunities that I've had, but I certainly employ my daily life as an attorney on the commission in I think a very helpful way. Just to maybe critical think or logical thinking and think through the steps. And that speaks to also, the cause and effect of what will come next and what developers are in the area. And the consequences.
I've always felt very strongly that a zoning commission or planning, Danbury is very unique in that it separates out planning, mm-hmm. a planning commission from a zoning commission. The planning commission in Danbury is an appointed commission, whereas the zoning commission is an elected position. I guess that has worked. I don't really. I think there's probably strengths and weaknesses, but both of you also being native Danburyans, the growth in the last 15 years has really. We've seen a lot in Danbury, and I guess Ted, with your background and being able to look back, how are you feeling about what are some of the issues you think that we're facing currently, and because part of what having sort of a majority commissions, you see the consequences or you see the results of what policies were. So if you're now looking back 15 plus years, what do you see?
Let me say this. Let's say that when I first got involved, I don't want to call Danbury a blank sheet of paper, because Danbury's been around for a while. So let's just say that when I got involved, there was still a lot of white space on the sheet that wasn't filled in. And in these 15 or 20 years or whatever, things got built, things got developed. And for the most part right now, there's not much left in Danbury. Danbury, a lot of the land has become residential uses, condos or houses. A lot of the commercial land has been built up. A lot of the industrial land has been built up. So it got filled in over the years. And now I think we've had the growth. Hopefully we planned the growth properly and decided on the growth properly, and now we have to manage it. Mm-hmm. All right, so yeah, the agenda on the zoning commission maybe has gotten shorter, and maybe the meetings aren't as long as they were during the good old days, if you want to call it that, and there's not much that's critical in front of us, although every petition does have its own importance. But we have to now look at other things. We have to manage what we have. There's issues as far as population of schools, traffic congestion, larger commercial zones, larger people that are, areas that are using water, larger areas that are using sewer.
Conversion of land uses too, right?
Yeah.
Light industrial being converted to,
exactly.
to residential use.
And we're gonna face shortly, if property values, if we get another big cycle in real estate again, we're gonna have hit Danbury what other areas have seen, and that's going to be the teardowns. So something that's nice and pretty and existing is going to come, a developer is going to come in and rip it down and do something else bigger because the money's in it. So.
And that really speaks, I think, to Danbury's geography, right? Where we've got a lot of good things going in the city. We're a safe city.
Absolutely.
We're a growing city. There's jobs available for people. We've got a good proximity to New York City. It's a great place to live. We got recreational opportunities.
84 goes right down the middle of it and just brings us so much closer to everywhere.
Yeah, and then we're in New England. We're one of the, and we're the urban area for the urban core for
all
this
of our
part
surroundings.
of our state.
Danbury's a great place. You know, when I was doing real estate, you know, people would always ask, how are the schools? How are the schools? How are the schools? Big, very important question. How's Danbury? How's this? I would say to them, I go, look, my family's been in Danbury since the 1800s. I love Danbury. I know you want the answer to this question. I'm not going to answer it. I'm going to give you everything good about it. So it just doesn't seem fair that you ask me how's Danbury. I'm going to say I love it. Go talk to somebody else. Talk to somebody else. Then let me know if you want to buy a house in Danbury, because I love the schools, I love the restaurants, I love the people, I love it all. I'm the wrong guy. So really, Danbury's a great place.
Well, Candace, do you feel the same way? I mean, you're professional with you know, as a lawyer, you really could, you know, raise your family in any of the surrounding towns, and you chose the town you grew up in.
I love Danbury, and I've chosen to stay here. After law school, I clerked for a federal judge, and then I went to work for a law firm in Westport. And then when I wanted to hang my own shingle, I came home. I wanted to be in Danbury, and that was in 2012, and it was the best decision I made. I interact daily with folks from all over the state, especially from Lower Fairfield County, that have their own opinions about Danbury and sort of believe that the world ends in Wilton.
They do. I think
you know,
you're right about that.
You say Danbury, they say, "Oh, I've been to the mall." You go to the mall? Do you live near the mall? Yes, that's it. Like, there's nothing else in Danbury but the mall. And that, I find it, I will tell them my opinion and that I like it, but I try to convince people. So I'm opposite, I guess, than Ted. I don't say I'm the wrong person. I want to tell you why I love it. I want you to love it. I want to bring you downtown. I want to go to a restaurant. I want to, so I mean, it breaks my heart to think about our school system and to think what people think of our school system. I have a child who's
one of your child. You have to bus a very long way, right, to get to school, or the trip is.
He doesn't. He just finished kindergarten today. Was his last day, so he's officially a first grader. But no, where I live is now districted to go to Shelter Rock School, which is almost a 45-minute bus ride from our home.
Yeah, that's what I meant too.
And
yeah, just how far away
I believe that our neighborhood was pushed out of the Mill Ridge district due to all of the development on the west side. There's no mobile classrooms, and now Mill Ridge Intermediate became West Side Academy, and grades 4 and 5 rather go to King Street. So we drive into Mill Ridge every day just because it's closer. I love Dr. Cronin, to be honest. I know everything about the school. Probably a little bit, you know, my alma mater. I have my own. But I mean, I always am convincing, especially young families, that they should give it a try, that they should try it, because you can't go by just on what you hear. I loved growing up in a diverse population. I love what it's given me today. So I want my kids to have that experience. I really do. And I mean, it's true. I've considered, you know, oh, maybe it would be easier to move to this town or that town, but I just can't bring myself to do it. You know, it doesn't go very far. You know, it just.
Well, and when you decide to run for public office, it sort of anchors you in as well.
In a great way. In a great way, because then if you feel as though you're contributing and you have a say in the direction, you just can't sit back and whine and say that nobody's doing anything, or we don't have money to do this, or, you know, I mean, you have to contribute, and it's something, you know, in my generation and some younger, that depend on other people to make a move. And I mean, I have friends that say, oh, Candace, I'm glad you have time to do that because I'm so busy. You know, I mean, it's.
Well, I feel questions, you know, as the party chairman, that you know, people want to say that you know, they're not interested in politics or they can't ever get involved, and I really believe that we can all do something with what's right in front of us. You know, sure, we may not be able to solve our national problems, but Danbury being such a microcosm really of where our country is as a whole, as far as you know, socioeconomically, diversity, education levels, racially, religiously, it's a slice of where our country is.
No, it's a wonderful mix, and I almost dislike, I mean, I do dislike the fact that you have to be aligned with a political party to get involved with local politics, because to me, locally, we should all want the same things.
Yeah.
Well,
it doesn't
and I
matter
also tell
what
people
you are.
that, you know, it's so easy to tune into the dialogues that are happening nationally, which want to put us on opposite ends of the spectrum. And I start off right away, because it is a free country. We can still decide where we're going to vote and what we're going to be, and that's how it should stay. But as a community, we have more in common than we don't.
Right.
And that's where I always try to start with people when there's a political topic, because it's important as a community. And if you're listening to the noise from outside, you're going to think that as we sit around the table, and we're all Democrats, so you know we're going to. But even within parties, people don't necessarily agree.
And I would say that, you know, I don't think I consider me being a Democrat when I'm sitting on zoning. I consider what's best for Danbury.
Yeah.
What does our community need? What's the right thing for Danbury? And I have not found, in my experience, that people are voting one way or another just based on their political affiliations. And I think that's comforting. I mean, I think the people who are giving up their time to do these really unpaid jobs at night away from their families are doing it for the right reason.
I don't know that I can necessarily agree with that point of view, having brought the whole off-track betting thing to light, and you know, after 14 hours of public hearing, having the vote remain the same.
Well, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but I was asked to not come to that vote.
Yes,
so
I remember.
That, yes.
In itself, you're like, forget this alternate business.
Well, that's what, if you want somebody to just rubber stamp every application
funny.
that comes through, find somebody else who has nothing to do.
Yeah.
Because I could be doing anything else at 7, 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night.
Yeah.
So looking ahead and thinking of, I understand, Ted, you're now a great uncle, and your grandnephew lives in Danbury.
Yep.
With the last 5 minutes that we have here together, what are some of your concerns looking ahead as far as zoning matters or concerns for the city?
Well, like I said before, I'm concerned that. I guess I would be concerned with any new developmental ideas that are in any areas of the town where the schools are already at capacity. You know, it's interesting because when people talk about the cost for a school, and just like there's a developer right now that's going to contribute to some future schooling, I guess, I don't know what they're calling that.
Student impact.
Student impact fees. You know, it doesn't cost much in the scheme of things to build a big brick building that they call school. It's every day after that you pay the salaries and the utilities and everything else that goes involved for the rest of our life that keeps going up and up and up and up and up. So a school is just not about building the school. It's the school. So for somebody to say, hey, I'm going to give you a couple bucks if you approve my project to put in X amount of residences, I'll give you a couple bucks to build a school. Nah, that, in my opinion, it's.
So any increase in residential development should be
really
look at the city and the impact on the schools.
Yeah, and the infrastructure in Danbury, the example of the train on Mill Plain Road to connect with the Brewster Station. You know, I proposed that idea back in the 1980s when Gene Iroquois was mayor, and I was put on the front page of the paper. It said, "Earth to Ted Haddad, where are you coming up with the money?" And
Way ahead of your time, Ted.
Yeah, and I says, wait a second, you're going to be taking all these cars off of Mill Plain Road. I had a setup with the mall developer, it was Macerich at the time, where they're going to shuttle buses at Christmas time from people in Manhattan to come, and we had Albert Salem and Hank over at Chuck's Steakhouse that were in for commuter lots and stuff. And then now they're talking about it again. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a great idea. It was a great idea when Gene Iroquois and I came up with it. But things like that, you got to think out of the box a little bit.
Well,
now.
I'm glad you're throwing your hat in the ring again for zoning.
Thank you.
Very happy.
Thank you.
Candace, anything to add to what Ted has to?
No, I would have the same.
Pointed out?
I would echo the same concerns, and you know, those concerns that are on our safety personnel, fire persons, police persons, all of that. And when you're developing outside of the zones, I mean, the way that Danbury is zoned for those purposes is really, really stretched thin. Mm-hmm. So I think it's always something you have to consider
Yeah, because in
the
some
impact
of
on
these
all
new
of our-
developments, they're sort of self-contained neighborhoods, and they're not really they're not necessarily receiving protective services from the city.
Yeah, and even senior housing, anything like that, you have to, somebody falls and hits their lifeline, somebody has to respond to that.
Yeah,
Multiple
they have
people have
to-
to respond to
Right.
that. And that's all, a burden on the city. So you have to weigh that with the benefits of what we can offer to different prospective clientele or residents.
And
of
I
Danbury.
would say some of my concerns is just converting some of the existing light industrial zonings or commercial zonings to residential to accommodate some of these developments, and then the further burden it'll put on our infrastructure, our roads particularly. One thing we're hearing as we're out there in neighborhoods knocking on doors is traffic and the state of our roads. So those are, and I think those are issues that come up in any community that has seen growth. But I guess we're fortunate that people continue to want to come to live and raise their families.
Absolutely.
And I have to say, I support your point of view too with the really what do we make Danbury? How do we create Danbury through zoning regulations that welcome families? Because that's really what makes for a healthier community when we have things in place that support our families and the nurturing of our families.
Yeah, absolutely. Shifting gears a little bit, it's pretty
In
difficult.
our last minute, just so you know, in our last minute. Yeah.
It's very difficult to get the message out too when we're missing a newspaper in town.
Yeah, sign of the times.
I mean,
right?
even for current events and attracting new people in Danbury, but even public notices of planning commission meetings and zoning commission meetings. It's very difficult to get people out there. They don't know about it.
So we'll see you out campaigning this municipal election, right? Helping us knock some doors and get people to the polls. It's going to be an exciting municipal election, and I really hope we have a strong candidate with Chris Sotero and a lot of the other Democratic slates, including all of you.
Thank you. Really looking forward to the change.
Yeah, great. So thank you for watching tonight, another installment of Danbury Dems. I'm Andrea Gartner, the Danbury Democratic Town Committee Chair, and we'll see you next time.